Kite Man, episode 3. Hell yeah. Villigans, a hell yeah. A review. Overall, I'd say for this show, hell yeah. All right, guys, we're here back with Variants, cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, DC's Kite Man, and man, is it good to say, welcome back to DC's animated universe. It's been ages since we've seen anything from them. The last time we watched something from them was the last season of Harley Quinn, which overall I was thoroughly disappointed by. Kite Man seems to have learned from the mistakes that followed the last two seasons of Harley. Look, shock and awe seems to be something that this show will be incorporating, but this show is going to incorporate it in a level and world building that makes sense. And look, we need to put things into proper perspective here. Kite Man's a dude who hangs out with a glider who's never really taken care of anybody, so to speak. In villain terminology, he's hanging out with Golden Glider, who's got a flying power set with really sharp blades and is able to make a lot of cool things happen when she gets emotional. She's able to transcend outside of herself and make some cool things happen. Unfortunately, she has very minimal control of herself at the time, so she's kind of worried about where she's going to end up with Kite Man when those moments happen. Because look, couples inevitably would argue, like, say, you put her example was you put a dish in the sink when you're supposed to put it in the dishwasher. Look, I don't know anybody in this known world who's always put the dish washed directly into the dishwasher. Like, some days you just don't feel like doing it. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. For someone who's that kind of tight about those sort of things, may I suggest paper plates? When you're done with it, you put it directly in the garbage. You just kind of bypass the issue altogether. Just my 2 cents on it. But with this episode, we had a bar open up directly across the street called Villigans, a villain themed bar, which had penguins who had missile launchers on their back, and we had people from Calendar Man to Joker to Manta Ray and to the Riddler. We had Scarecrow. We had a chubby Harley Quinn. And then we had a Poison Ivy who looked like she had seen better makeup days in her line overall. Over there, just working, hanging out, having a great time at the bar, just kind of as a villain theme bar, making sure people were very interesting. And they're doing very villainous things like charging $17.99 for appetizers. Who in their right mind would do something like that, $17.99 for an appetizer? Makes absolutely no sense in my mind. But again, it's a villainous corporation. They're very upfront about it. Overall, their manager, Baby Doll, was moving in, trying to become a regional manager, make a scene, make a splash. And then ultimately, she decides to mess with Kite Man and kind of try and take out Noonans as quickly as she can. Makes you wonder who sent her. In my mind, Luther is probably the head of this villain themed corporation, as he was also seen as one of the imposing statues in the background, hanging out with people like Deadshot. And then they had Trigon hanging out on the floor, looking like he's about to break his way through the floor and be absolutely free of everything under control that he is with stuck Raven's mind. But look, Bane ended up going undercover here, getting a job, and the only thing that he was really in charge of as far as what happened with him is the level of the fact he held himself to a very professional level of work ethic. He carried himself well. He did what was best for himself and for Villigans. And ultimately, by the end of the episode, we learned that he was unfortunately canned. And look, if you're going to get canned for having great service, it's not the worst thing in the world. Band, continue to carry your head high, soldier. You have done a fantastic job of being a villain who strives to do the right thing for himself and for others at certain times. So it's a very fine line he's walking. He's doing a good job of it. But this episode, we saw Kite Man really get in an argument with Golden Glider. Golden Glider was kind of apprehensive when she initially met Kite Man about where things are going. Like, if you don't feel comfortable moving in with him, time to break up with him. Kite Man finds this information, causes a whole big fallout that ultimately leads into both Golden Glider, Alice, and another character whose name escapes me at the time because it is 12:40 at night. They go ahead and head on off, and they have a woman spotted, which sounds like an acceptable time, except for the fact Kite Man is now being counseled by Sean. Sean does things the old-fashioned bar way, where it's hostile, to say the least. Things aren't moving, flowing, and it's more or less like, hey, you need to teach people how to do things a certain way from an old school perspective that's out of date and not something that's necessarily even worth repeating. So Kite Man is going to try and figure out how in the world he's going to attract business back to where it's going, especially after the fact that when he went over to Villigans, he found out that there is no Kite Man lookalike over there. Out of all the villains that they have, he is not on the list. But ultimately, then he goes back to Sean's like, look, I have never taken care of anybody. I've never actually done the job. I've never done the deed, so to speak. So I can't really be like too pouty about it. And I definitely can't tell the Legion of Doom about this because this would ruin me because you can't really be a villain if you haven't had your first in that regard. So that continues to happen. And then as the spa day continues to go, it turns out it was a trap. Baby doll launched on everybody because she owns that spa that she sent everyone to go ahead and try and finish off Golden Glider, go and finish off Malice, and go ahead and finish off the Queen of Changing Bodies. So, for all intents and purposes, a huge fight breaks out. It's gratuitous, it's over the top. Why they needed to have it be at a moment in the spa where all the characters were more or less undressed, I don't really know. That kind of reeks of the smut and shock value that they were going for initially with like the Valentine's Day episode or Harley's relationship with Poison Ivy when it initially got kicked off, or just kind of stuff that made the latest season of Harley Quinn not so good. It's a bit of a big warning sign to me, but at the same time, it looks like they handled things as classfully and tastefully as they potentially could have in that moment in time. I'm hoping we continue to stray away a bit from some of that shock value, but at the same moment in time, I understand as creators, sometimes you kind of got to do something a little edgy, trying to stand out, kind of make things work together. And Golden Glider continues to handle her business and continue to just kind of work through people up till a big, large woman arrives who is very muscular, very, very long, blonde hair, looks a lot like Rapunzel, and was continuing to use her hair like a whiplash and was slowly taking people out, just kind of like asserting herself in the room. And ultimately, she got full control of Golden Glider, and looks like the situation was about to be grim for our villain. But as things turned out, Baby Doll appeared on the monitor, started to gloat about everything that was going on in front of Golden Glider involving Kite Man. I was like, hey, I took care of Kite Man. I put something in that little charcuterie basket, and next thing you know, boom, the gift basket itself gone, as well as Noonan's. And we saw the big moment that had happened on screen. So we're like, oh no, we have lost Kite Man in episode 3, which, hey, wouldn't be all that shocked. I don't really think he's long for many animated worlds. But as things continue to play out, we luckily got to see that she was able to escape from herself using powers because when she's emotional, she gets triggered and is able to transcend from her body. She handled the business of the room, then woke up, was like, oh goodness, I need to go back and get to Kite Man and really handle business. They reconvened because it turns out Kite Man was able to, because of Ultimate Frisbee, yeet that basket on over to Villigans and cause some serious property damage, which infuriated Baby Doll. She decides to gloat at him, try and get a big issue started with him about what was going on, only for Kite Man to finally snap because he believes he's lost the love of his life and beats the crud out of her, which will have something to transcend moving forward in the next couple episodes because that is going to continue to evolve to be a storyline that I think is going to be held against Kite Man, either in the regards of Legion of Doom propping him up and be like, look, he can get the job done, but the rest of society be like, that's not a good look, Kite Man, because Baby Doll's 47. She may be short, but it doesn't excuse anything that's going on here. And honestly, as a man, you shouldn't put your hands on a woman, even in an animated universe. Even when she was goading you, she was the one that instigated, and she's the one that caused all these problems. So we'll see how that plays out for moving forward. Overall, this episode, 7 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Be sure to hit that lovely subscribe button. We still have that 1,000 subscriber giveaway going on currently. We will have some photos of what I will be sharing for the 1,000 giveaway coming here shortly in the coming days for you, the viewer. Can't wait to do that. We'll see you in the next one, which will be My Hero Academia's live stream. See you then.